Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. No, I'm just playing. I know this works. But anyways, welcome to my check-in. Shout out the black dog that's just randomly running around out here. It's pretty cool. Just doing his thing, trotting around. Saw him carrying a bag of stuff earlier. But anyways, let me not get off topic. I'm back in Taiwan, and I was in Taiwan in April earlier this year, and just so I stand corrected and so that I, am being factual and whatnot, when I had made that video, had said that I was in the city of Taipei, but actually I'm in Hsinchu City, and that's where I am again today. I'll bring you guys over to the spot that I started those videos, just so we can go full circle in a little bit here. But I'm coming at you guys with this video when it's such a timely matter, because I haven't made a video in about 9-10 days. But let's talk about returning to the path. Let's talk about resuming the mission. Let's talk about re-entering that space of being in that path of purpose, being in that path of reason, and returning to that. So starting off with, there's a number of reasons why look, there that dog goes again. What's that with the bag in its mouth again? I don't know what he's delivering, but he's working, He's putting in that work, and it's kind of a synchronicity of seeing him doing that. I don't know if you see him crossing the road right there. I'm trying to point towards it. It's a little far away, but in any event, returning to that path. And there's a number of reasons why a break might be taken. There's a number of reasons why one might go on a so-called hiatus, which is really just means a break from anything. And like I said, there could be a number of reasons: mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I know by rewatching that video that I made in April earlier this year, and I know I'm jumping around a lot, but I was in Taipei, but that was later on that week that I was here in April. And when it comes to returning to that path, when it comes to returning to that mission, when it comes to mentally, it's a lot about getting back into that mind state, of, okay, I'm joining back into that space that I am in when I'm putting in the work. I'm moving back into that space that I'm in when I am in my purpose, when I'm on my path of, of putting in that work, that path of mental work, physical, emotional, and spiritual work. And we're always putting in that work, so it's not exactly like, oh, I didn't record any videos, that's me taking a break from putting in work. No, not at all. In the time that you haven't seen me, I've grown. I've grown mentally, I've grown physically, I've grown emotionally, spiritually. I've put in work physically, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. That happened just because I didn't record it or I didn't post it on YouTube doesn't mean that I wasn't putting in that work. But in regards to, justifying why you took that break, and that could be a break from anything. Just because you're taking a break from one thing doesn't mean that you're constantly growing and expanding in other things. So knowing when's the right time for me to take the break, when should I do these certain actions, when should I do these certain actions. And let's talk about mentally, when you are resuming, or you're returning to that path, that purpose that you have in life. Like I said, it's about getting into that mind state. It's about tapping back into that mind state and that mind space. Getting into that mind space, tapping into that mind space, tapping into that mental realm, tapping into that mental space that you are in when you are putting in that work, as far as when it comes to mentally, when you're on your path, when you're fulfilling your purpose, as far as when it comes to mentally, when you are in your power, when it comes to mentally, getting back into that space that you are when you are in your power when it comes to mentally. And this could be, the mental thought forms that you use, returning to using those again, the ones that are strong for you, the ones that aid and benefit you in your path when it comes to mentally, when it comes to you returning to whatever mission, purpose, path that we're talking about. And I will be making another video as far as it comes to traveling and the physical, like moving locations and the effects and whatnot that it has on the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual states of being. And that will be coming soon. I'll be doing that before I leave back to the States. But when it comes to, that'll be about esoteric traveling and exoteric traveling, and that, like I said, that'll be coming soon. And so it's about mentally returning to that space, mentally returning to that state that you should be in. Look, there's another dog. Where my dog's at? You're right here, dog. So check it out. You guys can see. It's a different one, totally different one. Is that your dog?
Yeah.
Nice dog.
Okay. Can't go.
And the black one too?
No,
Just this one?
this is what.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
And when it comes to, mentally, how are you thinking when you're on that path? How are you thinking when you're on that purpose? How are you using your mental state of being in those spaces that you need to be using them in? And as far as what's going to best benefit your mental state of being, what's going to best put you into that space of strength, put you into that space of power when it comes to your mental state of being. Interestingly enough, that wasn't actually a stray or a just random dog walking around. The owner was actually right there, and I didn't even see until I looked back. But I gotta keep my eyes around me, be aware of my surroundings and whatnot. And that's just a reminder. That's just like, okay, maybe I thought that there was just a random dog or not, but what do you know? I have an interaction with a local, have an interaction with a person, and be able to just interact, right? Interact mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And have that interaction, have that genuine interaction where, that was a genuine thought that I had of, that's a nice dog, and physically making that communication to say, hey, nice dog, is that your dog, whatnot. Emotionally, already just being present, being strong, being genuine when it comes to emotionally. And of course, spiritually, I'm putting in that work right now, spiritually doing what I need to be doing. And you guys are going to check out this scene right here. This is pretty wild. I thought this was somebody standing in here. But yeah, spiritually, that was just on my path of putting in that work. And can I cross? Can I cross? Can I cross? And so when it comes to that's just interaction. And dealing with that, dealing with what you have to deal with, regardless of what that may be. Regardless if that's something difficult, regardless if that's something challenging, regardless. This is a street that there's a lot of construction going on right now. Things are being built, and so I had to go around and come back through because this part is pretty much under construction. And I wasn't expecting that, but you know what? I'm on my mission when it comes to mentally staying in my power. This is crazy. I hope this is entertaining to you guys because I just went on a walk, That's all I planned on doing, and come to find out, I've seen random dogs. I've seen a booth that was lit up that I wasn't even expecting anyone to be in yet. Turns out, security guard in there. And I didn't even see him till I walked up to the thing. I was going to show you guys, what I thought had looked like a pretty interesting thing going on. But other than that, I'm continuously moving. I'm continuously going on, whether that may be some resistance or whatnot, whatever that may be. And like I said, just had another genuine interaction. Said thank you, and I showed him, hey, this is where I'm going. I'm going that way, then going that way. I went like this and that, going that way or that way. And so I just walk around, and there you go. Some things that you just have to deal with, like that come with me just physically being in a space that is under construction. If you ever find yourself in a space that is occupied or having resistance in that physical place or space, then just deal with it. Get through it. Go against all odds. No matter what that is, no matter what that resistance may be, go against it. Keep on pushing forward and return to your path. Because you just keep coming back. Return to your purpose. No ifs, ands, or buts. No one's going to reverse it. Back on that grind. You make the time. And so that's mentally traveling back to that space, mentally putting yourself in that space that you need to be in to continuously, I don't know why I'm saying that word like that, but you guys get the point, to continuously pushing on, continuously moving forward and whatnot, regardless of what resistance there is to move back into that space, regardless of what resistance there is to move back into that path, that purpose when it comes to mentally. You will make it happen. Going against all odds, you will make it work. And that was my last video prior to this one, was going against all odds. If you haven't seen that video, I strongly suggesting go check it out. Go see what's up. Check out that video. It's a pretty good video and has some good information. Good talking points, good teaching points, good learning points in that video. And so let's get along with this. Let's go back into the concept of returning to that purpose when it comes to physically. Returning to that path. Resuming the work that needs to be done when it comes to physically. You know, don't stop putting in that work when it comes to physically. Continue pushing on. Continue moving the needle. Continue on putting in that physical work. That is part of your path. That is part of your purpose. That is part of your mission. And I'm right now going against all physical resistance because, well, I had to travel a long time to get here. And now that I'm here, there's things that I have to do. There's physical actions that I have to partake in. There's places that I have to be, places I have to go, spaces that I need to be in when it comes to physically. And I could sit here and I could say, hey, like last time when I was here, and, you know, I felt a sense of, you know, flat out just say it, be real, be owning up, a energy of, I'll say, struggle, could say tough, times or whatnot. I don't know what you'd call it, but I mean, anyone can tell by looking at that video that I was going through a little bit something more. I mean, that was in regards to my detachment from nicotine, but nowadays you guys don't hear me talk about that much anymore, and that's simply because I've grown from that. I physically moved into a space where that doesn't really evolve in my reality because, you know, I've been able to detach from it so much and attach to things that are actually important that it's just not, you know, it's not worth it. It's not really something that matters. It's not something that mentally I think about. It's not something that physically I care about if it's my space or not. It's not something that emotionally invokes an emotional response enough for me to react to, and or I've spiritually completely detached from things that aren't going to benefit my state of being, going to benefit my spiritual presence, spiritual strength, spiritual growth, and continuous growth when it comes to spiritually. But anyways, it's another tangent, but it has to do with putting in that work, so why not keep talking about it? And physically, think about the place that you're in. Think about the space that you're in when it comes to physically. And moving into that space is about doing what you have to do physically, putting in that work when it comes to physically, moving back into that space when it comes to physically. And back to my point where I was going with what I had just gotten done with speaking about is I'm back in that place. Physically, I'm back in that space, and being able to resume the mission, being able to resume the path, and be aware of the path and be aware of what's going on is saying, hey, take a look. Realize how much has changed. Realize how much you've expanded. Realize how much you have grown since the last time you were in this place. It's like a night and day difference. It is truly. And being able to be aware of that is just helping me to, like I said, whatever space I'm in, place physically that you're in, you can get back on that path no matter how much time has gone by, no matter how much actions in the other direction, how much actions in that direction, this direction, over there, out there. And regardless of that, you've been able to think of it like you've been able to return to that path regardless, regardless of the physical state, regardless of what's physically occurred. And to see that growth has happened, expansion has happened, it's what I want to see. And it's worth seeing, it's worth paying attention to, And it's worth being aware of it when you're returning to that path, when you're returning to your purpose, when you're returning to your goals, when you're returning to that mission that you are part of. And yeah, it's all about just being aware. I had a water bottle over there and I left it there. I should have probably brought it with me the whole time that I was walking. So I don't know if I'm even going to drink out of that because it's just not worth it. It was out of my awareness. It was out of my mind. It was out of my space physically. Of course, I'm bringing it back, my mental awareness, my physical awareness, emotional and spiritual awareness of the situation by gaining my power and not drinking it because, it was out of my view. It was out of my area, and I can't confirm that. It hasn't been tampered with, of course. It looks absolutely fine. So using my intuition, I am going to go put it under a light and see if I can tell if anyone's picked it up or anything has necessarily happened to it. Because you just want to be aware of these types of things. You don't necessarily know. But honestly, I'm not going to just pour it out. I am going to take some. Yeah, seems fine. I trust my senses of smell. I trust my senses of sight to have that initial awareness of, oh, that's something that it can't happen. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm not going to drink that water bottle that has been sitting there. Regardless of past things that I've been through, regardless of what I've heard, what I know can happen, and whatever that may be, I'm going to use my intuition at the end of the day. I'm going to use my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual intuition to know that this is fine to drink. And at the end of the day, I'm powerful enough to protect and be protected from whatever it is that comes my way, regardless of what that may be. Not going to quite head back in that direction yet, just because I'm liking it over here so far. And moving on to, before I move on, you've got to do what you've got to do in order to return to that space, return to that mission when it comes to putting in that work physically. And you got the power. Physically, I'll give you an example. Prior to this, did the laps that I needed to do as far as exercise in the pool. Got some heat exposure in a dry sauna. But anyways, others are going to have other work that they do. Others are going to have other ways that they take care of their states of being. I, for one, am going to put in that work when it comes to putting in that work that I need to do for my purpose, my path, my mission in life. And just finding a spot for me to kind of hang out at for a minute here. Alright. So when it comes to emotionally, let's talk about emotionally moving back into that space, moving back, returning to that path. Regardless of if you have some emotional resistance, regardless if you feel this, you feel, oh, I don't feel like doing this right now. Like before, when I just got done doing that swimming and I just got done from that sauna, I was beat. I was tired. It's a 13-hour flight to get over here. And this is just the facts. This is just the reality of the situation. It is jet lag. Definitely, it catches up to you, and you can do your best, to get the rest, to stay hydrated, whatever that may be, to take those steps in order to combat that, in order to, help aid in your recovery of that or whatever. But I was like, you know what? Whenever, even though I feel this way when it comes to emotionally, I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to return. I knew I had to make my return. I had to get off of this hiatus. I had to go put in that work mentally. Go put in that work emotionally. Go put in that work spiritually, regardless of how I feel. Regardless of what my emotional state of being was telling me. Whereas I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling unmotivated in regards to I don't have the momentum from continuously having videos in the past week or so. But, that doesn't matter. What matters is that I am putting in that work. What matters is that I am returning. I am moving back into that space. Emotionally fulfilling what needs to be fulfilled in regards to your path, in regards to your mission. Being in that emotional state, being in that whatever that state is that you need to be in, that's beneficial for your mission, that's beneficial for your path, that's beneficial for your purpose. Not letting what you see physically, not letting what passes through your mental state of being, not letting these mental forms, not letting these feelings, not letting these spiritual aspects, these spiritual senses, these spiritual experiences that you're having affect you being in that stable emotional state of being, affect you being in that protected emotional state of being, protect you from being aware emotionally, protect you from being strong emotionally. So being able to return to that path, return to the purpose, like I said, regardless of what is going on, you will be in a state emotionally of strength, in a state emotionally of balance, in a state emotionally where you can carry out what you have to carry out, the mission as far as mentally. You can carry out what you have to carry out, the mission as far as physically. You can carry out what you have to carry out, the mission as far as emotionally. You can carry out what you have to carry out by being in that state emotionally as far as it comes to spiritually. You can, be on that path. You can be on that path mentally. You can be on that path emotionally. You can be on that path spiritually. You can be on that path physically. And returning to that is key, regardless of, I feel this way about the time I've took away. I feel this. I feel that. Being able to overcome those, being able to be strong enough when it comes to emotionally, to return to your path, to return to your purpose, to stick to your purpose, to stick to something, regardless of anything, is a strength. And that will continue to give you strength emotionally, and not just emotionally, but mentally, physically, spiritually. And returning to that path, returning to that mission, fulfilling that purpose, and continue on putting in that work. When it comes to spiritually, it's a duty. It's a spiritual obligation. It's about, my role, my spiritual role, the spiritual work that I have to put in to continue growing. The spiritual work I have to put in to continue pushing forward on my path. The spiritual work I have to put in to continue on being strong, being on my path of purpose, being in purpose, being in my purpose is all